teacher Chris. He's a teacher of social studies. So, what is social studies about?
Social studies is the study of various studies that all fall in the idea of social studies. It's studying society, basically. You're studying the history of society, the culture of society, the economics, the psychological impact. So it's all these things that come under the idea of how does society work and how has it worked in the past and how will it work in the future.
Okay. So, what are the main topics you will talk about with the students from 7th, 8th, and 9th grade?
Alright, so the 7th and 8th graders are going to have a similar theme. They're going to be talking about collaboration. They're going to talk about how people work together in history to create revolutions and to create social movements that brought them new hope and new ideas. For example, they might look at revolutions from in France to Chile or Cuba. These different revolutions are all about people working together for a common goal.
Okay. Are there projects in cooperation of these classes?
Yes, in the 7th and 8th grade, they will be working with a partner on finding out about another type of movement and revolution that they will research and they will present to the class. In 9th grade, the theme is different. It's about courage, and people in courage who have historically shown that they are courageous and have changed the world because of that. So the 9th graders will present a project on someone who has demonstrated courage in history.
Okay. So how do you explain different cultures and past events to the students?
I think, for example, in 9th grade, you don't really need to teach about culture because in 9th grade we have so many different cultures in our classroom. From you guys in the 9th grade, you have at least, I think, 8 countries represented only in the 9th grade. And you guys are already learning how to live with other cultures, how to understand other cultures. So while it's part of their daily life, it's also important to teach about other cultures and understanding different views. But it's easy to do when you have so many different countries represented.
Mm-hmm. How do you get your students to think critical and on topic?
Yeah, that's a really important part of social studies, is for them to question things. And thinking critically is that. It's having students not just assume that everything is true. They want to question why certain things happened in history. Why is the history of Nicaragua so different and so much more unlucky compared to Costa Rica? Or why does Germany have a different history than Italy? And it's important to think critically so that you can understand differences and understand not everything happens in a line, and there's certain things that change.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think the students can use the knowledge of social studies for?
As we talked about, critical thinking is really important. That will increase your ability to talk with people, to learn new things. Instead of just accepting something, you want to learn more about it. It also will develop writing skills and reading skills, because there's a lot of that in social studies. And it will also allow them to be students to better understand the world around them. Different viewpoints, different cultures from all over the place.
Okay, so could you now explain the topic you're talking about with the students in details?
Alright, in the 9th grade we're going to be talking about courage, as I mentioned. One person particularly is Nelson Mandela from South Africa. He was an advocate for equality for black Africans in South Africa who were marginalized. In that time, blacks in South Africa were forced to live on only 10% of the land when they were 90% of the population. So in that time, they had no rights, and the white citizens in the country controlled the government and controlled the laws. So he was courageous enough to stand up to it, which put him in prison. And he was in prison for 20 years, over 20 years, and came out of prison forgiving and understanding, and yet was still very, very determined to make sure everyone received equal rights. And so after he was released, he became president and made sure that people began to have equal rights under the law.
Okay, thank you for taking your time, Teacher Chris.
You're welcome.